Alright, so I'm going to do a video based on some comparisons when it comes to these devices. So the Byrna HD costs $359.99, the Mission TPR costs $329.99, and the PepperBall TCP costs $399.99. This will go up in price eventually to $449.99, but right now currently it's $399.99. As far as the chemical agent, this is 12% chemical agent, this is 5% chemical agent, this is 5% chemical agent, also 2% chemical agent, and then the VXR rounds, the live SD is 0.25, and then the VXR live X projectile I believe is 2%, I believe, or 2.5%. The Live X VXR projectiles are not available yet to the public. Hopefully we'll get that sometime near the future. Now also, as far as size goes, the Byrna being the smallest, it's 7.28 inches long. The TPR is 10.8 long. And the PepperBall TCP is 8 inches long. Now, as far as the weight, 1.3 pounds. Mission TPR, 1.81 pounds. And the TCP, 1.71 pounds. As far as range goes, the range is 60 feet, 66 feet, and 60 feet, and also 150 feet using VXR projectiles. All three launchers are semi-automatic. The Byrna HD shoots 300 FPS, feet per second. The Mission TPR shoots 330 feet per second, being the most powerfulest one out of the box. And the PepperBall TCP shoots 300 feet per second, but it has adjustable velocity where you could get it up to 330. They're all .68 calibers. 4-inch smoothbore barrel, non-removable. 6.25-inch barrel, removable smoothbore. This is a 5.25-inch rifled barrel, removable. As far as the barrel goes, you can't remove the barrel on the Byrna HD to upgrade it, but you can do it with the Mission TPR using an 8.5 thread barrel, so you could upgrade whatever barrel you want. And the TCP, you could upgrade the barrel, but it's already rifled, so there's no reason to change the barrel on the TCP. Now also, the Byrna HD takes 8 gram CO2, which is this one on the right, and the TPR is a 12 gram CO2, which is on the left. The PepperBall TCP takes a 8 gram CO2, but you can also buy a T8.1 magazine, so you could take a 12 gram CO2, but it weighs more. So you can use a 12 gram CO2 in the PepperBall, which would allow you to give you more shots in a 12 gram CO2, which is 7 shots plus 1. And with the 6-round magazine, you could do 8 gram CO2, 6 shots plus 1 by loading one inside and then putting the magazine in. The Byrna HD only shoots 5 projectiles. You cannot do a plus 1 on it. The TPR shoots 7 projectiles. I haven't did a plus 1 on it, but you could also use a 12-round magazine that's compatible with it. So you could get 19 shots with this. With one 12 gram CO2, you could do 19 shots on a TPR. On the PepperBall TCP, every time you load a magazine with 6 shots or plus 1, you're going to get the full shots with power behind every shot. Now, when you swap the magazine and put a new magazine, you're going to get power behind every shot because you just put a new fresh CO2 in each magazine swap. You're not going to take out the CO2 and put another CO2 and then load projectiles. So what you do is you have 6 rounds loaded, and then you have a 8 gram CO2 ready to go. So as soon as you use up your projectiles, you just swap the magazine out, and you're ready to go with a fresh CO2. Same thing when you use the T8.1 magazine. You could have 12 gram in here and have 7 rounds loaded. And when you swap this out, you could also put another magazine in with 7 rounds and another 12 gram CO2. So out of all 3 of these, the TCP is the only one that you install a fresh CO2 every time you change the magazine, because the magazine carries the CO2. As far as the Byrna, it carries the CO2 in the front underneath the barrel, and the same thing with the Mission TPR, it carries it in the front underneath the barrel, 12 gram CO2. So 8 gram CO2, 12 gram CO2, 8 gram CO2, or an option to go 12 gram CO2. So let's talk about firing. When you want to fire the Byrna HD, you would pull the trigger on safety, and that will puncture the CO2, and then you could fire your projectiles. The other way you could fire the Byrna HD is taking the safety off, pulling the trigger, and then what happens is the projectile, the CO2 will get punctured, and then at the same time it will fire a projectile. Now, when you fire the Byrna HD by pulling the trigger and puncturing at the same time and firing, you're going to get about 180 to 200 FPS. With the Mission TPR, to fire it, you have to take the safety off to puncture the CO2, and then pull the trigger the second time to fire. Usually the first shot on the TPR, it's always high, like around 340-ish. Sometimes even like 350. And with the TCP, if you want to fire a projectile, when you take the safety off, you would just turn this to puncture the CO2, and then you just take the safety off and fire. So the only way the TCP will be able to fire is if you twist this to puncture the CO2. Same thing with the larger magazine. To puncture the 12 gram CO2, you got to twist that as well. So you could have this ready, staged, and ready to go. Same thing with all these launchers. So you could have the CO2 inside without puncturing it. You got the CO2 inside without puncturing it. And the same thing with the TCP. So let's talk about velocity. Now, the velocity, you can adjust it on the TCP, but it's non-adjustable on the Byrna HD and non-adjustable on the TPR unless you know what you're doing. I know how to adjust it on the TPR, but as is, it's powerful the way it is. So the TPR has a cap there that you would have to take apart and adjust with a wrench. They set it at 330 from the factory. It's more than enough power. You don't have to do anything to it. The TCP, you put the Allen wrench in there, and you can adjust the velocity. With the Byrna HD, you can't do anything. This screw right here is not a velocity adjuster. This screw is basically a timer. So when you pull the trigger back, it's time to release the air to blow the projectile out. This is what that's for. You want to degas it, you would have to unscrew this and let some of the air come out, or you could just fire the shots. You know, there won't be no projectiles coming out, but you could just keep pulling the trigger until you empty it, and then release the gas by unscrewing that right there. With the TPR, if you pull the trigger and let's say it doesn't fire or anything like that, there's an Allen screw in there. You could just loosen it up slowly to release the gas. Then you could take that out. With the TCP, you could just release the safety and then unscrew it, or you could fire the rest of the projectiles. Same thing with the TPR. You could fire off the rest of the gas to unlock this right here. And the TCP, you just unscrew this a little bit to back off of it and release the excess gas. Alright, so let's talk about home defense. I would not shoot a PepperBall in the home unless the person's like right at the entryway or about to come in through the window. The best one, I believe, for home defense is out of the TCP and the Mission TPR. The reason why is you're getting more shots and more power. The Byrna shoots 5 projectiles, but it doesn't really shoot true 300 FPS. The Byrna shoots around 285, around that area. I have never gone above 285. So the most powerful out of the box would be the TPR and then the TCP. These two are shooting exact numbers that they claim. The Byrna is the only one that doesn't shoot 300 FPS that they claim. I don't know if there's a disclaimer, but from my test, I never once got 300 FPS with a Byrna HD. Now let's talk about the rails on the bottom. The Byrna HD has enough space to put a CMR 201 Crimson Trace laser, which is fine. This one is large, so you could put a nice large flashlight or combo laser and light. And the TCP is very small. The small lasers is very hard to fit because the angle of the way the trigger guard is. So you could get this 3D printed mount from Grimberg Less Lethal and run the Viridian C5 laser. But as far as like buying a mini laser and thinking that it's gonna fit, the problem with the rail on the bottom of the TCP is that it only has one slot. So you have to mount your light or whatever laser, and if that slot doesn't line up with the slot underneath the TCP, as far as the distance or the space, you might end up wasting money. You might have to send it back. So that's the reason why you see the Viridian laser on here, because I've tried using different small lasers and lights and stuff like that, and the Viridian setup is the best way to go with this when you have this 3D printed compensator. Alright, so as far as the Byrna HD goes, with my experience, the probability of having I would say a defective Byrna HD is a little bit high. I had subscribers that received some that were not shooting. They were defective. And I received a defective Byrna HD, a gray one, when I first ordered it. I don't know if their quality control is on point yet, because they have a back order that's 8 weeks now. Before it was 10 plus weeks. As far as the weight of the Byrna HD and the concealed carry ability of it, it's great for concealed carry. So that would be, if concealed carry is the number one thing for you, then go with the Byrna HD. But that's the only reason why you would go with a Byrna HD, because concealed carry is the best choice, is the Byrna HD. As far as the safety on the Byrna HD, the only thing that I wish they did was put metal switch on the safety, because it's made out of plastic. It just doesn't feel premium. Now, as far as the Mission TPR, they are coming out with a compact version, and I'm excited about that because I want to test it out as well. It is heavy and it's big. This is like a Desert Eagle, in my opinion. If you look at it, it's huge, but it has a lot of power, and it's great for home defense, camping, RV. And then the TCP is, I would say, more like a compact medium size. It's not really small. It's pretty big compared to the Byrna HD, and I'll show you that right now. So if you look at the handle, the Byrna HD goes down, the TCP goes slanted. And as far as the weight goes, the TCP is heavier. So as far as upgrades go, the Byrna, you buy it, that's it. There's nothing you can do to it. You cannot upgrade anything to the Byrna. You can't change the velocity. You can't do nothing. You could only add a laser or a light or that kind of combo. The Mission TPR, you can upgrade it because it's the same as a it's the same as a Tippmann TIPX. And if you guys are looking for a Salt Supply or the Saber launcher, it's the same. It's made by GI Sports. So the Mission TPR is basically a TIPX, a Salt Supply launcher, and a Saber launcher. The TCP, you could upgrade it as well. There's tons of upgrades you could do with the TCP. You could put a longer magazine. You can put the split shot on. You could put the laser on. You can also adjust the velocity, which is a big thing. A lot of people want to be able to make more power. So when it comes to like upgrades, the TPR and the TCP are the two that you can upgrade. But the Byrna HD, you can't upgrade anything to it. So that's the downside about the Byrna HD. But it still has a great market for concealed carry. So a lot of people ask me which one is better to buy, and it's kind of one of those questions where I can't answer that for you. I do these videos so that way you could understand how they work and how they basically perform. Um, when people ask me which one is better, this not what's better for me is not necessarily better for you. I don't know if you're going to conceal carry. I don't know if you're going to be keeping it in your home or whatever, but I can tell you that the Byrna HD is the best one for conceal carry. As far as the TPR, it's too big and heavy. As far as the TCP, you can try to conceal carry, but it's very noticeable because of the weight and the size. So hands down, the Byrna HD conceal carry is definitely great for that. But if you're not going to conceal carry, the Byrna HD wouldn't be my go-to. It would be out of these two.